Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. I'm in Brighton today, where I live, doing the Brighton Half Marathon. I'm going to be testing out the Alphafly 3s today to find out if I'm going to be using those for Boston. This is basically the first time I've done a long distance race in them, so hopefully it's going to go well. It's a bit windy. It's not raining yet. I think the rain's going to hold off till this afternoon. So yeah, big thanks to Sussex Beacon for inviting me down to do this. It's a great race. I do it every year, and it's a bit of a mixed bag depending on what the weather's like. So right, I'm going to go to the start line and start the race and then report back in a bit. Right then, I am back now from the Brighton Half Marathon, and it was a tough one. The coastal races that happen on the south coast are at the whim of the weather, and sometimes I've done Brighton Half Marathon where it's been absolutely perfect. Last year I did it and I got my PB of 1 hour 22, and the weather was absolutely fantastic. There were no issues at all, and it's actually a pretty fast marathon if the conditions work really well. There is a bit of a hill at the start, which can be a bit tricky, but you also get a really long downhill once you've done it, so it's actually not too bad. It happens at the point of the race where you've got a lot of energy, so it's easy to tackle at that point. It's much better having it there than at the end of the race, because that would be a big problem. So I've done the Brighton Half Marathon probably, I think, 5 times now, and each one has been different. I've done one in a storm where I lost about 10 minutes off my the time that I was expecting. I've done it in perfect conditions like last year, and sometimes it's just really, really windy. Today was a windy one, and you really did notice it. The first half of the race goes out towards the east side of Brighton, which is up a bit of a hill, and that wasn't too bad. I think the wind hadn't picked up by that point, but there was a little bit of wind, and it really helped when you came back off of that easterly bit of the route. So there's a really nice section where you can really pick up the pace, and you felt like you were doing really well. My first 5k was probably I think it was about 19 minutes, and my second one was almost close to 19 minutes. The second half of the race, which is when you go out to the west of Brighton, the wind's fine when you're going out because you get a little bit of a tailwind, but as soon as you turn around for the last 5k, you're going straight into the wind, and it's not easy. I've done that race before when the same thing has happened. So you're basically running along the seafront for 5 kilometres all the way to the finish in wind, and it really did take its toll on my time. I was trying to hit 4-minute kilometres all the way, but as soon as I got into the last 5k section, it dropped to like 4:25, 4:30-minute kilometres. Really struggled with it, and I just didn't have the energy left to really push through it. So my PB at that race is 1 hour 22. What I wanted today was around 1:24. I'm not as fit as I was when I did the 1:22, and I'm halfway through marathon training, so hopefully I'll be fitter by the end of marathon training and I can get closer or beat my current PB. At the moment I'm not quite there yet, so I wanted 1:24. I was on for sub 1:24 up until the point where I turned around on that 5k section, and I lost about 2 minutes from my time based on that wind. So I ended up with 1 hour 25 59, I think, something like that. And it was a really tough race. I really struggled with it. I'm probably tired from doing lots of marathon training, but also I don't think I'm as fit as I was this time last year, after training for Chicago, which I did train quite hard for. So it's a really nice race. The crowds are fantastic. If you've ever been down to Brighton, it seems to draw in a lot of people who just want to come down to the seaside and watch the race and enjoy it. Even today, when it was really not very nice conditions, it was absolutely rammed. There were just crowds and crowds of people cheering. So it's a really nice race to do. I think there's around 8,000 people that do it, maybe more, but it is a really large scale feeling event, and it just really pulls in all the people from the local area. It's one of those big races that all the local towns, people coming from London to do it, because it's such a big, enjoyable race to do. So if you're looking for a half marathon to do, and you want something that is really quite a nice location to do it, you get to see some really nice sights. Obviously, you're running along the coast, but you get to see a little bit of the countryside outside of the main area of Brighton. You get to see the marina, and you also go through some of the main streets of the town as well, so you can see some of the little parks and things that you have in Brighton. But overall, really good event. It's just really nicely organised, and well worth doing if you're looking for a big spring half marathon, especially if you're doing a marathon in maybe March or April, because it's nicely positioned so that you can do that and test your training. For me, I was basically using it to test where I was at for Boston Marathon, which I'm doing in April. I think I'm a bit behind where I should be at the moment, so I wasn't massively pleased with my time today, but with the wind and everything, I'll take it. I'm going to do another half marathon in a few weeks as well, to see if on a flat course in better conditions I actually can pull it back a bit, hopefully get under get sub 1:23. Okay, so the shoe I was testing was the Nike Alphafly 3. I have used this for a few runs so far, but I haven't raced in it. I've done a park run in it, and at the moment I'm trying to decide what shoe to use for Boston. I haven't got the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4s yet. I should be getting those pretty soon. The Alphafly 3 is a funny one because I'm a massive fan of the Alphafly 1. I'd probably put the Alphafly 1 and the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 almost identical for me when it comes to long distance racing. I think those shoes are both really comfortable. I like the level of bounce and squish that you get in both of those shoes, and the Alphafly 1 I just think is really noticeably fast. It just feels really bouncy and works really well for my running style. It's one of my favourite ever carbon plate shoes, and I still use it all the time for various training runs and park runs and all those sorts of things. So the Alphafly 3, I know Nick is a big fan of the Alphafly 3, and I do like it. Well, first, all the runs that I've done in it up until this race, I have enjoyed wearing it. I think it's definitely a fast shoe, and this was the first time I've done a half marathon in it. To be honest, I prefer the Alphafly 1. I just think this is a bit more subtle. You don't get the same feeling of squish and bounce that I get from the Alphafly 1, and it doesn't feel as noticeably propulsive as the Alphafly 1. I feel like the plate and the foam in the original really do make you sort of move nicely forward with a nice fast flowing motion. I think the Alphafly 3 is a bit more subtle, and I didn't really notice it in the same way that I noticed the Alphafly 1. When I put the Alphafly 1 on, I know I'm going to run fast. I feel like I want to run fast, and it just makes me want to pick up the pace and in a really nice and enjoyable way. The Alphafly 3, I don't really get that from it. It is definitely a fast shoe. It feels to me a bit more like the Vaporfly 2 or the Vaporfly 3 to me. It's just a little bit more subtle. It doesn't feel like it has as much bounce in it, and I don't really notice it on my feet when I was out running today over that distance. I always notice the Alphafly 1 when it's on my feet. It definitely feels like a shoe that is doing a lot, whereas I think the Alphafly 3 is just not as noticeable as the Alphafly 1. So for me, I think I'm still going to stick with the Alphafly 1 as my favourite of the Alphaflys. I haven't tried the Alphafly 2. I do need to pick up a pair of Alphafly 2s because Nick has told me that it's very bouncy, which is what I like about the Alphafly 1. So I think it is a good shoe. I definitely think it's a fast shoe, and it's definitely one of the top tier carbon plate racers out there. But I just don't. It's not the right feel for me that I get from the Alphafly 1. So hopefully the Saucony Endorphin Pro 4 is going to be a shoe that I really, really like and I want to use for Boston, because at the moment I don't think I want to use the Alphafly 3. I'm probably more likely to use the Alphafly 1 than the 3 if I'm going to go and try and get a fast time in Boston. Other things I'd say about the shoe is I did find it very comfortable. I think the upper's really, really nice over that distance. I didn't have any problems at all with it. It locks down nicely. Once you've laced it, it just feels really secure, but not too tight. It's quite comfortable. There's plenty of padding around it. And overall, it is a fantastic, really, really enjoyable race shoe. Just for me, it's missing something, which is that bounce and energy return that I think I get from the Alphafly 1 over the Alphafly 3. I'll be using this for hopefully a 10k soon and seeing how it feels over that distance. But for now, I just don't think it's got what it takes for my style of running when it comes to marathon distance and half marathon distance. That's it from me. Thanks a lot for watching this race test of the Nike Alphafly 3 at Brighton Half Marathon. Massive thanks to the Sussex Beacon who invited me down to take part in the race. If you want to find out more about the Sussex Beacon, I'll put a link in the caption below. It's a charity that helps support people living with HIV, so well worth supporting if you can. And don't forget, we've got loads of videos coming up over the next few weeks. Lots of them on super shoes, because we've been testing loads of those recently. And if you go into the caption, you can also find a link to our podcast, which comes out at the end of each month. And the February one is going to be about, if it's not up already, marathon kit, training, all those sorts of things. So a lot of you are probably doing marathons at the moment. So we had a chat about the advice that we would give when it comes to kit and shoes and training and fueling and all those sorts of things. Right, thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.